our very dearly loved sister, Tylisha. So she's amazing. She was reached out to here at UW in campus ministry a little over a year ago. And so she gets to share her heart with us. And she asked me to read in 2 Corinthians 12.
Come on.
In verse 9 and 10. It says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong."
Tylisha.
So it is an honor to be able to share for communion. It's really cool. A week and a half ago, when I was asked to share, and that conversation was really interesting because my answer was like, yes, with a question mark. I was like, I guess I can do it. And so what I got back was, if you're not excited to do it, you can get someone else. I was like, no, I'll do it. And so I was told you have 7 days to get fired up. And so I was like, all right. So a couple of days go past, and I'm asked again. I'm like, I'm asked, how do you feel about communion? Are you ready? And I'm like, still not quite there, but I still have 7 days. So a couple of days later, it's like the same. It's like I still have 6 days. I still have 5 days. But I stand before you a repentant woman. I am fired up to be able to share with you. And it's ironic because a month ago, I would have been immediately excited to share because I was like on a hill. And so I was having these deep times with God, and I was having these really long prayer walks. And I was learning about God's perspective and how he sees me. So I just had this positive mental attitude. And I was just godly focused. And then I started to go into a valley. And my times with God became shallow. I had less prayer walks. My mindset was really negative, and so was my attitude towards God and towards people. And that's why I thought of the scripture. It says, "For my power is perfect in weakness." So despite being weak, it's actually a better time for me to share now what the cross means to me than a month ago. Because when I'm feeling weak is when I cling to God, when I cling to his promises. And one of his promises is because Christ died on the cross, that my power is made perfect. Not that I'm perfect, or that I can do this on my own, but when Christ's power is resting on me, that's when I can say, for when I am weak, then I am strong. And so I'm able to transition from weakness, a place of weakness, to a place of strength through Jesus. And the scripture isn't saying for when I am weak, then I can't be close to God. Or when I'm weak, I can't be devoted, I can't pray to him. There's a scripture in Revelation chapter 3, verse 8. You don't have to turn there. I can read it. But Jesus is saying to the Philadelphia church, and something he says is on the second half of that verse is, "I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name." And what's awesome about that is it says little strength. So Jesus is talking to the Christians in the church who are weak, because they don't have a lot of strength. And so what I got out of it is, when you are weak, not only is it possible to stay faithful, but God expects you to. And it's really awesome. Not only have I learned or been learning about how God sees me, but and having God's perspective, of seeing God's perspective, but I've also been learning to have the perspective that God is greater than any circumstance that I'm in. And so I was actually able to study this out. And it was really awesome. I was reading in 2 Corinthians 4, 8 through 10. And it says, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed." And just for a little background, this is Paul. He's writing this, and think about what it would be for Paul to talk about how he's pressed on all sides. Like, he was a man who was hunted down. Like, people were out to kill him.
Yeah.
And that's the type of stress he was facing. And he didn't allow that to overcome him.
Mhm.
And as humans, we're stressful people. We stress about all types of things. We stress about like finances and having bills and taking care of family members and just having school and work on top of everything.
Yeah.
But it says, but it's through Christ that even if we're pressed on all sides, we won't be crushed. It's really cool because I was also able to see in the Greek how they define the word perplexed. And the Greek definition of perplexed is to be at a loss, not to know not to know what to decide or what to do. So it literally means to stand in doubt. And then on the other hand, despair means to renounce all hope. And so it's really awesome because you can literally be standing in doubt, but you are not without hope when you're Jesus. When you're letting through Jesus. And then the last part of it is when it talks about to be struck down, and that phrase means to be thrown to the ground, to be in a lower place. And a lot of us can relate to that feeling. Even sometimes God will put us in that place by humbling us, be in that lower place. And then destroyed is just to perish, is just to be no more. And so even if we're in that lower place of weakness, we still have that hope because we're not destroyed, we're not taken out completely with Christ. And so that is what the cross has meant to me, is that in every relationship, there's a high and a low, but in a relationship with God, in those hills and valleys, there's strength.